Welcome back to Anime Octopus, where alternate timelines aren't just theories, they're reconstructions of reality. Today, we're hacking into the neural network of the Naruto universe to explore a dark, divergent scenario. What if Naruko was cursed to destroy the Hidden Leaf Village? Not exiled. Not misunderstood. But engineered, as a weapon born from prophecy, twisted by an ancient curse embedded deep within her chakra network. Imagine this. The very child once destined to bring peace to the shinobi world is recoded into a living algorithm of destruction. Her seal? Corrupted. Her will? Fragmented. Her presence? A ticking time bomb beneath the Hokage monument. How would the world respond to a kunoichi who doesn't choose destruction, but is programmed for it? Would Konoha turn on her? Would Jiraiya still train her? Would Sasuke still betray her, or try to save her? These are not just hypotheticals. These are rewrites of fate. But first, the legal barrier we must cross. Disclaimer. All content on this channel is crafted purely for entertainment and intellectual engagement. I do not own any anime footage shown in these videos. All rights and credits belong to their rightful creators and copyright holders. Now, plug into the multiverse. Let's unravel a cursed destiny. This is Anime Octopus. And this is where the shadow timeline begins. Who are you? Naruko asked, her eyes narrowing as she observed the movements of the unknown shinobi from the hidden grass village. She had just finished battling an enormous serpent-like summon, and upon returning to her team, she was met with the sight of this unfamiliar ninja attempting to threaten her squad. Naruko, Sakura exclaimed joyfully, relief washing over her at the sight of her teammate returning unharmed. And Naruko? Sasuke muttered in surprise, turning to face her from the same tree branch. Despite Naruko's reputation for perseverance, Sasuke couldn't imagine anyone standing against this mysterious opponent, especially not someone as formidable as the one called Orochimaru. If this adversary was overwhelming even him, what chance did anyone else have? Naruko calmly walked past the stunned Uchiha, casting a brief glance over her shoulder as she did. It was surprising to see fear in Sasuke's eyes. That only confirmed the seriousness of the situation, and Naruko knew she had to act to protect her team. She halted a few steps ahead of him, shifting her gaze from Sasuke to the grass nin, who stood at the opposite end of the branch. Naruko was often underestimated, but when the time called for it, she could become intensely focused and strategic. Something about this opponent was unnatural, a dark and heavy energy surrounded them. She recognized that even combined, their squad wouldn't be enough to defeat this threat head-on. A plan was needed, and unfortunately, there was only one that had a chance. PSST, Sasuke, Naruko whispered over her shoulder, drawing his attention. I have a strategy. Orochimaru watched with interest as the two Genin spoke in hushed tones. He knew they were scheming, but that didn't concern him. What truly intrigued him was the fact that Naruko, the vessel of the Nine Tails, had defeated his summon. Even experienced ninja struggled to handle such a creature, and yet this young kunoichi had done it. Perhaps he had been too quick to focus his attention solely on the Uchiha. Maybe this girl deserved more consideration. Sakura, standing further away, observed the interaction. Frustration bubbled within her, she hated being left out of the discussion. Still, she couldn't help but be thankful that Naruko had returned safely. Even so, uncertainty weighed heavily on her. If not even Sasuke could defend them, how could Naruko, the one everyone used to underestimate, stand a chance? And yet, something told her Naruko might actually have a plan that could work. Sasuke's expression changed from skepticism to concern after hearing Naruko's idea. He leaned in closer, whispering, "Are you serious?" Naruko nodded slightly, glancing at the grass nin before refocusing on Sasuke. "We don't have another choice. Let me handle this. I do know the shadow clone technique." Despite himself, Sasuke found a new level of respect forming for Naruko. Her plans were often unorthodox, sometimes outrageous, but they somehow worked. However, this time felt different. But this isn't a training drill with Kakashi-sensei. This is real. Just trust me, Naruko replied calmly. Her eyes shifted toward Sakura, her expression softening. She didn't know if Sakura saw the unspoken message she mouthed to her, but she hoped it reached her heart. Sasuke, now visibly distressed, raised his voice slightly. "You can't just tell me to accept this." Naruko turned to face him once more. "I'm sorry. But you have to. Go. Now." With a sudden urgency, Sasuke grabbed Sakura and leapt away, carrying her to safety. Under normal circumstances, Sakura might have protested or cheered at the attention, but she knew what Naruko was doing, and it filled her with dread. Naruko wasn't retreating. She was staying behind to create an opportunity for her friends to escape. "You've got courage, thinking you can challenge me," the disguised Orochimaru said, watching Naruko as her teammates vanished into the trees. Naruko turned to face the sinister ninja, her determination unwavering. She swiftly drew 2 kunai, holding one in each hand with expert precision. Then, with fierce focus in her eyes, she launched forward. "Don't underestimate me." At first, Orochimaru found it amusing that she believed she had a chance. But then he realized, Naruko wasn't acting recklessly. She had recognized his power and was still willing to risk everything to protect her team. That level of loyalty and courage sparked an interest in him. Perhaps this kunoichi had far more potential than he anticipated. He leapt back, narrowly avoiding a precise slash from Naruko's kunai, landing gracefully on a tree trunk and using chakra to stick to the surface. That's when he heard something unexpected. "Multiple shadow clone technique," Naruko called out. In an instant, the air filled with smoke as over 100 identical clones appeared, encircling Orochimaru. Naruko, along with her clones, took defensive stances, eyes locked on their target. With a sudden burst of chakra enhancing their speed, they charged. Dash! "Sasuke, stop! What about Naruko?" Sakura shouted, glancing back anxiously. "We can't just leave her." "It was her decision, Sakura." Sasuke called back, his voice strained. He knew that Naruko likely wouldn't be able to win, but he had given her his word, to protect Sakura no matter what. The memory of their earlier conversation was still fresh in his mind. Dash! Flashback. "I've got a plan," Naruko had said seriously, her voice calm and her expression focused. "Take Sakura-chan and get as far from here as you can." "What? What are you going to do?" Sasuke had asked, not liking where the conversation was heading. "I'll stay and buy you both time to escape." Her tone was steady, a rare moment of absolute seriousness. It was clear she understood just how dangerous this opponent was. "No. You're coming with us," Sasuke argued. "Promise me, Sasuke," she had interrupted, "promise you'll protect Sakura-chan, no matter what. You need to run fast. I'm going to try a new technique I've been working on. It's not stable yet, and I'm not sure what might happen if it fails." Sasuke hesitated, frowning. "What technique is it?" Naruko turned slightly, as though sharing a secret. "It's called Dash. Flashback and Dash." Sasuke's jaw tightened as the wind rustled past him and Sakura. He didn't know what that new technique was or how far Naruko would go to make it work, but he knew one thing for certain. She wasn't someone to be underestimated anymore. Sasuke could still see her lips moving as she performed the technique. In disbelief, he whispered, "Are you serious?" That Naruko had mastered the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu was already incredible, but to see her using even more complex techniques was beyond imagination, especially for someone still at the Genin level. Sasuke couldn't understand how Naruko was becoming so powerful so quickly, and that mystery unsettled him. Sakura didn't care if it had been Naruko's choice to stay behind. She was their teammate. Simply abandoning her without at least trying to help felt deeply wrong. But the others had fled, giving in to fear. And now, Sakura understood what Naruko had mouthed to her before Sasuke had pulled her away, "Ja-ni, goodbye." Naruko had believed they wouldn't see each other again. Sakura fell into silence as she gazed out into the forest, where Naruko was likely still engaged in a fierce battle with the formidable ninja, Orochimaru. Her vision blurred with tears as Sasuke quickened his pace, leading them farther from the fight. Dash. To think a Genin could wield an A-rank technique like Taijuu Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Orochimaru mused, eyes fixed on the visibly fatigued Naruko. The young kunoichi was kneeling, her arms trembling from exhaustion as she struggled to hold herself up. She had created hundreds of clones, wave after wave, but Orochimaru remained unfazed, eliminating them with a variety of high-level techniques. He occasionally used a peculiar sword he would draw from his mouth, skillfully deterring Naruko whenever she came too close. Naruko had long since deduced that he was operating at elite Jounin, possibly Kage level. His abilities were simply beyond belief. But Naruko refused to surrender. With a determined grunt, she stood up once more, forming a cross with her fingers. "Kage Bunshin no Jutsu," she cried. More clones materialized, and 3 immediately leapt toward Orochimaru. Jage Jubaku. Orochimaru summoned a massive serpent from his sleeve, but the clones braced together, forming a barrier to hold it back. One clone launched the real Naruko toward Orochimaru, shouting, "Bunshin Tayatari." As Naruko approached, Orochimaru began summoning that strange blade again, but before it could reach her, she created another clone midair, using it to vault behind him. Landing on a narrow tree branch beside him, Naruko spun, drew a kunai, and slashed, only for the head she struck to dissolve into earth and vanish. A clone. Naruko muttered. Tsuchi Bunshine, an earth clone. She knew Orochimaru was observing her from somewhere, but she needed a plan. Should she risk using that technique? She hesitated, unsure if any allies might still be nearby. But did it even matter? Most of them never treated her like a real friend. Still, she couldn't give up. Orochimaru, hidden nearby, continued his assessment. This young kunoichi, Naruko Uzumaki, possessed vast chakra reserves, clever tactics, and impressive stamina. Even without a skilled mentor, she had become formidable. Orochimaru imagined the potential she could unlock with proper guidance. She was ideal for his ambitions. Why remain in this village? His voice echoed mysteriously from all directions. Naruko blinked, slightly taken aback but also cautious. Because I have people here I want to protect. Oh? And who would those be? My friends. She replied softly. What friends? You hold the nine-tailed fox spirit. You're not one of them. I'm not the spirit, I'm just its vessel. Exactly. But why does the village treat you as if you are the fox? Naruko looked down, struggling to find the words. Why? The voice pressed again. Because. They don't understand. That's right. They're misguided. Why not come with me instead? I can offer you the guidance your village never has. No, Naruko shouted, shaking her head. I'll protect my village, and everyone in it. Orochimaru's voice grew colder. What kind of companions leave a friend behind? Even if it was your decision to remain, they abandoned you.
I still have others, Naruko insisted, tears beginning to form.
Who? Lord Third. She called. And what has the Hokage truly done for you? The voice continued. Did he offer you a family? He gave me a home. But not love, Orochimaru responded with unsettling calm. He could have taken you in himself, but instead gave you solitude. You're wrong, Naruko said, voice trembling. She wiped her eyes, standing tall once again. I'm done listening to you, she said firmly. Naruko's expression shifted. Her determination was like fire. I don't care where you are, Orochimaru. But you need to understand something, she declared. Months ago, I found the scroll of sealing. I thought mastering one of its techniques would earn me my place as a ninja. I learned Cage Bunshine. But when the scroll opened further, I saw another technique. I didn't understand it at first, but I created my own variation. She placed her hand over her heart. It's called Daijigabakua, Great Energy Release. With immense concentration, Naruko forced her chakra to react in a way she had never dared before. A massive surge of light and energy erupted from her form, shaking the forest. Sakura glanced back toward the blast site, concern etched across her face. What was that? I don't know, Sasuke replied, crouching near the riverbank. Please be safe, Naruko, Sakura thought, watching dark clouds begin to form above. Naruko's eyes fluttered open. She looked at her hand. She was alive? How? She sat up and saw the land around her charred, the trees scorched. In the distance, she spotted something odd, a layer of pale, snake-like skin. Then a voice came from behind. That was very impressive. Naruko leapt to her feet instinctively. It was Orochimaru, his appearance subtly changed, his complexion pale, his eyes sharp and reptilian. How am I still alive? She asked. I used a special counter technique to neutralize your explosion just in time, he explained. But I'm not unharmed. Your creation is powerful, worthy of recognition. Naruko stared in disbelief. There are far more advanced jutsus in this world, Orochimaru said, raising his hand slowly. And I could teach you. Naruko didn't hesitate. She slapped his hand away. I would never follow you. Orochimaru chuckled. You may say that now, but I've seen your heart. One day, you will see through the mask you've worn for so long. And when you do, I'll be waiting. Before she could react, he struck her with a precision blow to the stomach. Naruko lost consciousness as he caught her gently and vanished into the forest. She stirred later by a riverbank, feeling weak and disoriented. Every part of her ached. Her shoulder throbbed in particular. She crawled toward the river for a drink, then paused, catching her reflection. She pulled down her collar. On her left shoulder were 3 black marks, spinning in a familiar pattern. Naruko didn't know what it meant. But she was too exhausted to care. Her body demanded rest, and her eyes slipped closed once more. Looks like we're finally here, Sasuke said, arriving at the tower at the forest center. Yeah, Sakura whispered, her heart still heavy. Kabuto rejoined them, giving a brief nod as his teammates appeared nearby. I'll see you both inside, he offered. Sure, they replied in unison. But neither could ignore the feeling that they had left something. Or someone. Behind. Kabuto decided not to linger with the group any longer due to their discouraging mood, and exited the area with his companions. He had already assisted them in obtaining both the Earth and Heaven scrolls. What more was there to offer? He was just about to open the scrolls when he noticed his snake-like master leaning calmly against the wall. Orochimaru-sama. The information on Uchiha Sasuke has become quite limited. He appears withdrawn lately, and I haven't observed much of his technique in action. Also, the curse mark isn't present on him. Orochimaru-sama? Orochimaru seemed lost in thought, his attention drifting back to another individual, someone who had recently been marked. Forget the Uchiha, he commanded, surprising Kabuto. What? Why? The sound spy asked, genuinely confused. After all the elaborate efforts, dealing with Itachi and pursuing Sasuke due to a Sharingan, why the sudden shift in focus? What about the one with the 9 tails? Orochimaru asked, disregarding Kabuto's question. His interest now lay in the energetic Kunoichi who once seemed to lack promise. Though he wasn't sure whether or not Naruko had rejoined her team, he had attempted to place her nearby without alarming her concerned teammates. She wasn't with her group for some reason. I assumed that's why the girl and Sasuke-kun were so disheartened. But what do you hope to gain from her? Kabuto questioned, still unable to understand his master's plans. Orochimaru released a tired breath. Nothing, Kabuto. Absolutely nothing, he said, though clearly his curiosity hadn't waned. Naruko had been incredibly fortunate. Although it didn't seem like it at first, she had just awoken from a short nap to find out that the second stage of the Chunin exams was nearly over, thanks to a passing group of Miss Janan. However, the silver lining was that she was already near the tower marking the exam's endpoint. Even better, the passing team had both required scrolls, Heaven and Earth. Just in case her own team had failed to retrieve one, she could now ensure their passage. The Miss Janan proved surprisingly easy to outsmart, falling into one of her self-triggered traps. From there, Naruko quickly collected the scrolls and continued toward the tower. Sasuke and Sakura entered what they believed to be the final room of the second exam. It was empty, save for a scroll displayed on the wall. Sakura approached it with uncertainty and turned to her teammate, struggling slightly with the unfamiliar singular reference. I don't understand what this scroll is saying. It mentions something about Heaven and Earth, but it looks incomplete. We probably have to open both scrolls, Sasuke said casually, though he was just making an educated guess. Oh. Sakura replied, not questioning him for once. As they unrolled the scrolls, a puff of smoke appeared. To their surprise, their former academy teacher, Iruka, stood before them, smiling broadly. Congratulations. You 3 have passed the second stage of the Chunin exams. Sakura and Sasuke looked confused, their joy quickly fading when he said 3. Iruka noticed their downcast expressions and realized something, or rather, someone, was missing. Where's Naruko? He asked, concern rising in his voice. Sakura averted her gaze, wrapping her arms around herself as tears began to form. And Naruko stayed behind so we could escape from a really strong opponent. Iruka's heart sank. It didn't seem possible that Naruko could be gone, especially not before achieving her dream of becoming Hokage. He looked toward Sasuke, whose silence and averted gaze confirmed that it wasn't a misunderstanding. The girl he considered like a little sister was gone. I'll take you to the third exam arena, Iruka said quietly, leading them away, leaving the explanation of Heaven and Earth for another time. Hey, Sakura. Listen to me, Sasuke said gently, approaching her and taking her wrist softly. I know it's going to be tough without Naruko. But I made a promise to protect you, and I plan to keep it. So let's become stronger together. That's what Naruko would have wanted. Sakura nodded, a flicker of new determination lighting up her tear-stained face. Right. Sasuke, surprising her even more, held her hand firmly, smiling for the first time she could remember. Let's go, he said, as they followed Iruka up the steps, still hand in hand. Dash. Kabuto continued pondering Orochimaru's sudden interest in Naruko. It made little sense. Naruko had always been seen as lacking natural skill, often ranking at the bottom of her class. Sasuke, on the other hand, had immense potential and was a top graduate with the Sharingan. Why would Orochimaru choose Naruko? Dash. What? Kakashi exclaimed as Iruka informed him of Naruko's absence. Iruka's voice remained calm, though his eyes betrayed the sorrow he felt. They just told me, Iruka said softly, stepping back as Kakashi stood with the rest of the Jonin. Kakashi turned his eyes to Team 7, now a duo. He silently noted how much duller their training would be without Naruko's energy and spirit. Even Guy, his ever-enthusiastic rival, remained quiet out of respect. Elsewhere, the disguised Orochimaru grew tense. Had they really gone that far? He had warned Anko during their earlier encounter not to interfere with Naruko's participation. Perhaps he hadn't made himself clear. Anko, biting her nails nervously, was also troubled. She had been trying to figure out who Orochimaru had marked with the curse seal, and none of the Genin appeared affected beyond fatigue. She didn't even know the recipient's name. Everyone's thoughts were interrupted by a sudden commotion from the exam hall's entrance. "Let go of me already!" a voice cried. A young kunoichi with golden hair and striking blue eyes was dragging 5 Chunin officers along with her. "I have the scrolls, why won't you just let me in?" "We're sorry," one Chunin exclaimed. "But you're late, the second exam is officially over." "Well, maybe I'd have gotten here sooner if I didn't have to drag all of you up 5 floors. Naruko retorted, still trying to push her way forward. "And Naruko?" Sakura's voice trembled in disbelief. She was alive. Relief washed over her like a wave. Sasuke's eyes widened in shock. His rival, his teammate, whom he believed gone, stood before him. Ahem. The Sandaime cleared his throat, commanding attention. "Would someone please explain what's going on?" All 5 Chunin immediately stood in formation and bowed. "Apologies, Hokage-sama. This kunoichi entered the premises without authorization." "I have the scrolls right here," Naruko shouted, holding them high. "Naruko!" Sakura called from across the room. Turning toward the familiar voice, Naruko spotted her teammates waving. She smiled, relieved. Sakura surprised everyone by rushing forward and hugging her tightly. Naruko blinked in confusion until she noticed Sakura's tears. She had been so worried. Then Sasuke stepped forward, placing a hand on Naruko's shoulder. "I'm glad you're okay," he said with rare warmth. The Sandaime observed the reunion quietly. He had known Naruko had become separated from her team but had been unable to act, due to the importance of his duties. Yet he noticed something concerning. Naruko frequently held her shoulder, wincing slightly. Could she be the one Orochimaru had marked? Anko had quoted Orochimaru, "She holds something of great importance." Perhaps that something was the Kyuubi. Sarutobi wanted to halt the exams immediately, to protect Naruko and investigate. But he also knew the importance of allowing her to grow and prove herself. He silently dismissed the Chunin and allowed the event to continue. Dash. A Jonin with his headband worn like a cap stepped forward, clipboard in hand. Clearing his throat, he addressed the room. "Should we begin the preliminaries now, Hokage-sama?" he asked, facing the elderly leader. The Sandaime nodded. "Yes, Hayate." "Excuse me." Ino raised her hand politely. "Yes, Yamanaka Ino?" Hayate replied. "What exactly are these preliminaries?" "Well, this year we have many participants," Hayate explained. "So we'll need to reduce the number of competitors before the final stage of the Chunin exams." "Oh, I see." The room settled as the next stage was about to begin, with Team 7 whole once again. Ahem. "All right everyone, please direct your attention to the large screen behind me," the instructor announced, turning to gesture toward a monitor that slid out from a concealed panel in the wall. "These matches will be conducted one-on-one and will begin immediately. If anyone feels they are unable to participate, now is your opportunity to step away." A wave of surprise passed through several of the competitors. After enduring so much, why would anyone consider withdrawing now? Seeing that no one moved, the instructor gave a nod of approval and turned back to the monitor. "Very well. Let us proceed." Names began rapidly cycling on the digital display until 2 contestants were selected. Yakashi Kabuto vs Uzumaki Naruko. Seriously? Naruko thought in dismay. Why do I have to be first? Couldn't I have gotten a few minutes to rest? This worked out better than expected, Kabuto mused to himself. Naruko had been the only reason he hadn't withdrawn. The selected participants will remain on the main floor, the instructor announced, motioning toward the center of the arena. Everyone else, please proceed to the observation platforms. As the group moved away, Naruko noticed her mentor, Kakashi, lingering behind for a brief moment. Quietly, he leaned closer and said, "I'm glad you're okay." "Thanks," Naruko replied, watching him walk off toward the stands. Turning back to the participants, the instructor raised his voice, "Do either of you have anything to say before we begin?" There was silence from both sides. "Then let the match begin." Jutsu descriptions. Taijutsu technique. Bunshine Taiyatari, clone ramming maneuver, A rank. A strategic taijutsu skill employed by Uzumaki Naruko. She generates multiple shadow clones using the cage bunshine technique. These clones charge toward the opponent. If the enemy attempts to counter the initial wave, a subsequent clone will launch Naruko over the group using their combined momentum. This rapid propulsion allows Naruko to close the distance and maneuver behind her target. She then creates an additional clone mid-air to assist with positioning. Ninjutsu techniques. Cage Bunshine no Jutsu, Shadow Clone Technique, B rank. A high-level ninjutsu that produces fully physical clones, each containing a fraction of Naruko's chakra. These clones are capable of executing techniques independently and can pass acquired knowledge back to the original upon dispersal. This method significantly accelerates training and mission efficiency. Taijuu Cage Bunshine no Jutsu, Multiple Shadow Clone Technique, A rank. An advanced variation of Cage Bunshine, capable of creating hundreds of clones simultaneously. This technique demands substantial chakra reserves and is typically forbidden due to its intensity. However, it enables exponential learning, as each clone contributes to the original's knowledge base. Jage Jubaku, Snake Binding Technique, C rank. A jutsu used by Orochimaru in which large serpents are summoned from his sleeves to coil around and restrain the opponent. The technique can disrupt an adversary's focus, especially when used with intimidating presence. Tsuchi Bunshine, Earth Clone, B rank. Originating from the Hidden Stone Village, this technique mimics Cage Bunshine using earth-based chakra. While the clone possesses physical form and combat capabilities, it does not relay knowledge back to the original upon dispersal. Bunshine Bakua, Clone Detonation Technique, A rank. A forbidden shadow clone variant that allows the user to remotely trigger an explosive reaction within a chakra-infused clone. This clone is visually indistinguishable from a normal shadow clone but is engineered to release a powerful burst of chakra energy upon command. Fuso Kufuri no Jutsu, Neutralization Technique, A rank. Designed to halt an opponent's technique mid-formation. The user must make direct contact with the target and match their chakra output to effectively neutralize the active jutsu. Precision and timing are essential. Taisha Eitogama no Jutsu, Regeneration Replacement Technique, S rank. A signature ability of Orochimaru, allowing him to shed his current form in exchange for a revitalized body. While highly effective in escaping harm, overuse depletes his chakra reserve significantly. This move can also serve as a form of rapid body substitution. Shunshine no Jutsu, Body Flicker Technique, D rank. A fundamental technique that enables a ninja to appear or vanish almost instantly. Often enhanced by environmental elements like leaves, mist, or sand, this jutsu is ideal for swift retreats or sudden engagements. That concludes the first installment. Stay connected for the next wave of innovation. With appreciation. Anime Octopus.